Thank you for joining. This is the Oracle Machine Learning Office Hours Hands-on Lab OML Services. I'm Marco Serancibia. OML Services is the REST API for model deployment and management. I'm going to be presenting these, and Sherry LaMonica and Mark Warnick are on the call as well to answer any questions you might have. So please make sure that you ask your questions on the Q&A, and then we're going to take a look at the lab itself. So the goals for today are basically to test drive the new Oracle Machine Learning Services that's available with the Oracle Autonomous Database. So that means the data warehouse, the transaction processing, the JSON database, so the different flavors. We're going to explore some of the different aspects of model deployment with in-database machine learning models, as well as we're going to see how to deploy ONNX models, right? We're going to also build a model with OML AutoML UI, and we're going to deploy that directly to OML Services. So this is not going to be a full AutoML UI a demo. That's coming next week. So this is just going to be a flavor for you guys to see how we can deploy models, right, to OML Services. And we're going to learn a little bit about the application integrations with other cloud applications that exist as well. So again, this is going to be a 90-minute session. We hope that you guys get familiar with it, with all the live labs, and then with the OML Services capabilities. And we're going to focus on the REST API. So we're going to need specific components for that, and I'm going to talk about it and show you guys around. Again, if you wanted to have an introduction to machine learning, then this is not the session for you, right? The specific machine learning concepts, you can find many sessions I've done on ML 101 and ML 102 on the link below. So to start, first thing is access your live lab instance. So we're going to start with those. Then we're going to see a quick introduction to OML Services, and then we're going to check the labs. We're going to work together through the labs, and then anytime you guys have questions, again, Q&A is right there for you. If you have technical problems, I'll ask you guys to chat to the panelists. So one thing is going to be general questions about the product. That's going to be on the Q&A. If you have a specific technical questions, your live labs instance is not working, then the experts can help you with the chats, okay? So we're going to distribute all the links as well through the chat window, right? So first things first, then let's get you guys started with accessing your live labs. Before we do, there's just one detail. If you guys were running any hands-on lab in the live labs or any live labs reservations before right now, you're going to have to delete those so that you can use ours, okay? So Sherry is sending you the links in the chat, and those are basically telling you how to get to the first link is to your My Reservations, if you had one, so that you can go back and delete that reservation, because you're going to get an error if you don't, okay? If you were running already one, you're going to get an error because you can only have one live labs instance running at a time. But what we want to do is we want to access our own live labs, and this is the link. And basically, you're going to go and click on Reserve Workshop Live Labs, okay? So I'm going to do that with you guys. And then if you don't have an Oracle account, an oracle.com account, it's free, so you're going to have to create one. So when this menu pops up, you're going to have to say create an account, and then you're going to have to fill in this form that shows up, and then check your email, right, for that information that you're going to receive there, right? So then once you get your email, you're going to have to come back and say, verify your address, go back here, and then go back to the original link to click Reserve Workshop on Live Labs and sign in with your user and password, okay? So I'm going to do that with you guys right now to make sure that we're all following, and then there's nothing different that I'm doing from you guys, okay? So I'm going to go to Live Labs. So the same thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to just click on Reserve Workshop. And then the idea here is that right? So what I want you guys to do then is to say start workshop now on the left, and then you choose consent to receive reservation emails, and then you click on submit reservation, okay? So now that you have this screen, basically what you're going to do is then you're going to click on view your reservations. And then this is going to tell you pending creation, okay? So we expect that's going to take around maybe 10 minutes, maybe 20, depends on how busy the systems are. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little timer here for ourselves for something like 15 minutes. Then I'll leave this little clock here running just so that we can come back to that, okay? So basically the idea now is back here, then we have that running, okay? So we have our reservations is gonna be sent in around that time we expect. We're gonna receive some emails telling us that. And if you refresh the page, you're gonna see the time, right? The expectation there for that time. So we're gonna leave it for now. And a quick introduction then to Oracle Machine Learning Services and how that connects to all the rest of the family. So the Oracle Machine Learning, I think we've spoken to this about several times. It's a family of different products and components that work in conjunction, right? So in the database and in Autonomous in particular right now, we're gonna see the SQL, we have OML for Pi, we have an upcoming Oracle Machine Learning for R, and then we have the notebooks on the right-hand side, the Oracle Data Miner UI, and we have the Oracle Machine Learning for Spark, which runs in the Big Data Service. Now, at the bottom, you see the Oracle Machine Learning AutoML UI, and then the Oracle Machine Learning Services, right? These are the two components that are probably the newest, the youngest ones in our components. And the idea with OML Services is actually to facilitate some of the key attributes that we have for Oracle Machine Learning. And the main one for us is the production ready, right? How to deploy the models, right? Very quickly. So the OML Services has other features, but this is probably the time we're going to spend the most with it today is talking about the deployments. So it does extend basically the functionality of OML, helps you with model deployment, model lifecycle management. We do that for in-database models, and then we do that for the ONNX or Open Neural Networks Exchange format, right? Models on that format as well. So these are basically a lot of endpoints that are up and running on the data center where your autonomous database is. And it provides several capabilities, and we're going to see them, right? But basically, it is capable of storing your models, is capable of running the scoring endpoints for them. We're going to be able to run classification, regression of third-party models in ONNX format. And you can build a model with Scikit-learn and deploy it, or TensorFlow and deploy it. And then we have some specific cognitive text capabilities that are built in English, French, and Spanish as well. And finally, the cognitive image capability that we can deploy a model that you can just send an image and get a response, right? So the main component then there is that we work with the top connectivity, right? The first, we do that connection from a REST client. We speak to the user, we send the user and password to that OML user's a REST endpoint, right? That's the database, the autonomous database one. And then we get back a token. When we get the token back, then we can do all the actions that are below, okay? So we can see all of the guess, the post, and delete. So these actions then are related to the things you're going to do, right? So the REST endpoint methods are all of these things that you see on the screen here. There's a lot of different components that we do, from administration to getting the model lists, to deploying the models, to the cognitive text at the end of the day. So let's take a look at the labs then, right? So the labs today, the first one we're going to do is the installation and configuration of Postman client for REST API, okay, management, because that is going to be our main product today that we're going to use as a client. Okay, there are many other great REST API development environments, but this one is a very easy one, free. You can download it, and it doesn't interfere with anything else you have on your machine, and you can delete it afterwards if you don't like it, if you want to use something else, right? But we created several collections for it, so that's going to help us with that. Then lab 2, we're going to start with getting the token authorization, and then we're going to register and score OML models, and then we're going to register and score machine learning models with ONNX, and then we're going to register and score image classification models in ONNX. And finally, we're going to see the cognitive text, okay? So first things first, let's get going with the installation and configuration of Postman client. So what I want you guys to do is to please go to postman.com/downloads. Okay, so you should be able to open a page just like this. There is a client for Linux if that's what you're using as well. So it shouldn't be any different. But I'm showing you here in the screen the basic Microsoft Windows and Mac OS. So if you guys can go in and check the postman.com/downloads, just like what Sherry shared in the chat, and then download that for your computer, right, for your local machine. So as an example, I know that for Windows is easier because you have the .exe and you can run that installation. For Mac, you'll download a zip file. That zip file, then you double click it to extract the application, and it becomes the .app, as you see on the section below. And that guy, you can drag and drop that into the applications or not. It's your option, right? If you want to use it again, put it in the applications. If you want just to open it up from there and then forget about it later, that's okay as well. Okay. So the file is reasonably big, 132 megabytes. So I expect some of you are gonna still be downloading it or in the process of installing it. So I'll keep the page open here for a second. And again, any questions, please make sure you guys ping us on Q&A, okay, in the chat. So if you guys were able to download it and install it, we're gonna go and launch the Postman, okay? And in a few minutes, Sherry's gonna also share this entire set of instructions in a PDF that you guys can use to download the slides themselves, so that if you guys miss something, you can always go back, okay? So if you launch a Postman then on your desktop, this is what you're going to see, right? You see the first things is create an account or sign in, right? But for this hands-on lab, we don't need to create an account with Postman. It is useful if you have teams or if you want to work with other people, if you want to store more environments there and things like that. But we can just skip and go to the app, okay? So on the left, I have the example on Mac OS. On the right, the example on Windows. This is absolutely the same interface, okay? And then once you launch that, you're going to fall into this screen, right? And this is the important one. So we want to make sure that when you click on import, then you are going to open the files that I am adding there on the zip file on the top. So Sherry, if you can share that link of the Postman collections on top. Perfect. So what I want you guys to do is to download that zip file on the Postman collections. And then we want to unzip that zip file somewhere. And then click on that import button that you see there. Okay. Now, there's a menu that opens up that says import. So you can just drag and drop those JSON files, right? You should have 7 files. There's a file from numbers 1 to 6, and then there's another one that's called OML Services Live Labs. And then you just drag and drop those guys in, okay? So when you do that, you should see something like this, okay? That means you're importing 6 collections and 1 environment file, okay? So now we're gonna say, okay, we imported those collections. If you click on the collections tab on the left, which should probably be the default, you're gonna see then the collection there. And you can close that yellow annoying top notice. It's fine. You can just click on that X to close that component there. Okay, so we are up at, we're almost there. We have like maybe 3 minutes before we get the 15-minute mark that I originally put for our timer. So let's check how many people here have not received their environments. Have you guys received your environment email? And can you guys confirm that? If you, or please let us know if you have not yet received your environment email yet. Okay, and also, guys, when you're looking at that timeline and where it says, you know, it's going to take an X amount of time, make sure that you refresh your reservations, okay? Because, you know, mine was saying also the same thing, right? Mine was saying, oh, it's going to take a little more time, but then you click on refresh on your page, and now it says available, okay? Again, if you are on my reservations and it says it's going to take a little more time, it doesn't matter. Come here and refresh your page, okay? And then you're going to see this page here available. So keep an eye open for that message and that email. The email is going to tell you probably faster than, you know, you might be looking here at the reservations and you might be refreshing it. The email is going to always make sure that it tells you whenever you're ready, okay? So what I'm gonna do then is once this guy start, okay, for you guys, and again, remember to keep refreshing the page, right? Once it starts, make sure you click on the launch workshop and you should be taken to this page, okay? So don't do anything yet when you get here. You don't need to click anywhere yet, okay? What I want you guys to do when you get here is just to take notice of your specific autonomous database name, okay? This database name, this guy here, because we're gonna need it, okay? So for now, let me go back to our slides. And then, again, if you guys have any questions, or if you have not yet received your environment, again, please keep refreshing. And then another thing is make sure you download the link that Sherry sent with all of these slides so that you guys can, even if you fell behind a little bit, you can, you know, follow the slides and the step-by-step and get to where I am, okay? So the idea is when you receive that email from Oracle, from the live labs -no reply at oracle.com, you're gonna see that. You're gonna click on the My Reservations page in the email, or you can just go to that link as well, okay? The idea now is, as I showed you, is we're gonna click on Launch Workshop and we're gonna get to this page here, okay? Now, back into Postman. This is what I want you guys to do. You go to Postman, click on Environments, then click on OML Services Live Labs, and you're going to see something like this. Okay, something like this. Now, instead of having my database name here, right, in the current value, you're going to still see replace with database name, right? So what we need to do is we need to go to that page that we have open, copy the value from the database name, and just replace it over here in the current value, okay? And then we save our environment, right? So I'm gonna do that with you guys, okay? So I wanna do is, I come to environments and click on Oracle Machine Learning Services Live Labs, and you will see this. Now, we need to replace this value here, okay? It's just double clicking on it. We're gonna replace that value. So if I go back to my web page here, right? And I can just click copy value, right? That's gonna help me a real quick copy. And then I'm gonna back into Postman and I'm gonna replace this guy with that value, okay? Once I do that, I need to just click on save over here, okay? Save the environment, all right? So that's it. That's all we need right here for this. Now, back here then. So if you have any troubles with tenancy, right? For example, on a normal day of the week, if you're not using Live Labs, you want to use your own tenancy, right? Then this is the way we do things, right? In OML services, you get OML server, you get OML mod v1. This is where you get your token from, and then this is where you access the REST APIs. It's an OML server, tenant, and database. So the information in red basically means the OML services server where your autonomous database is. So for example, if you are in Ashburn, you would actually replace that string with this one, right? If you are in Europe, right, and Frankfurt, it will be EU-Frankfurt-1, right? So the database center changes the name over here in this part. And the tenant, that depends on your tenancy. Right now, you all are running under the Live Labs tenancy, but if you had another one, a different one, your own, you're gonna have to use the entire long OSID for the tenancy, okay? It's not the autonomous database OSID, is the tenancy, right? So you're gonna need the entire string there to put it all over here. And then the database is just what we did, right? The database PDB name, okay? So it's a database name. So it's ADW, whatever, right? The 3900 in this case. So hopefully that gives you a good idea. What I want you guys to do now is then for lab 2, okay? Now we're gonna get the token for authorization of OML services REST requests. So the OML services work with basically token, okay? So we need to get a token, and to get an initial token, we're gonna look into the 1.1 in our Postman, and we're gonna request a token, okay? So this is the normal way you would type things and you will work on. If you're using something like curl on a terminal, right? If you don't want to use Postman, you're familiar with curl, you want to use it on a terminal or something like that, this is the way you call it. So there are many different ways to call this components, right? So when you call a token, basically when you request a token, I'm showing you an animation here on the right, you can see that basically that's the way I'm doing it. I'm just calling that, so I get that very long string, and that's my unique token, okay? And it's has an expiration of an hour, and it can be refreshed for up to, I think, 8 times. You can actually refresh a token and get the same token validated. So the idea is we're gonna then go to 1.1. So let's go back to our Postman and come back to collections. And now in collections, and you can see, you know, these tabs are open, right? So I'm gonna just close all my tabs here just so that, you know, I can concentrate on one at a time. It will do that automatically for you every time you open things up. So if you go here to collections 1.1, I want you guys to go to the 1.1, and let's investigate how this looks like, right? On the top here on the right, you got to make sure you select OML Services Live Labs, okay? that's your environment right here. Because by default, it says no environment. So if you guys try to run this, it's going to say, you know, this name doesn't exist. So on the right, on the top right, you got to say OML Services Live Labs, okay? And then now that we're here, we can see the values, right? So I'm in Montreal. This is a tenant, right? This is the database name. So that's my unique database name. You guys will have different ones for you. And then you see here in the body, right? Normally it's default, it shows here, but in the body of the message, this is what we want to do, right? We're going to grant type password. The username is a username we put in there, and then the password is the password we have in the system. And if you want to say, hey, but I don't remember exactly, so it's very easy here on the right, on the top right, there's a little I. You can click to check like a quick view, right, of that environment. So you can really quickly see, you know, what are you using for database, tenant, and OML server. And because all the live labs have the same user and password, this is going to be the same for you guys as well. But the database is different, right? So each of us is going to access that a little bit differently. And you see, we don't have a token. We don't have a model ID because we have not registered the models yet. But I have given a pre-built the names of the models here, just to facilitate when we do that. Okay, so okay, close the eye, and then let's get a token. So you click on send, and this guy is gonna talk to the autonomous database in Montreal. Is gonna say, hey, this user and this password are asking for a token, and then you guys are gonna get this entire string here. Okay, now instead of us having to type in this entire thing or copying that to here, right? Because the alternative will be, okay, now I can copy that string here. Instead of doing that, Postman allows you something called tests. So if you click on the tests, what we have done here is we just parsed the response, which is this one that you see on the bottom, and then we actually set an environment variable called token automatically. So now what's going to happen is now for the rest of my entire labs, I already have that token in memory, okay? And I don't need to re-enter it or don't need to type it anywhere. It just goes and automatically populates that new variable, okay? So that's a very good exercise for us. All right, so now we have a token. Now what? So the first thing we can do is just to check the metadata description of the basic OML services, right? So it's a call to that OML mod v1, right? To that server OML mod v1, and we need to send the bearer token here, right? The entire string. So once we do that, basically this is what we expect, right? We have a server there. We're gonna just click on make sure the token is there, right, and populate it, and then we're gonna click on send, and then we're gonna see that we get back the APIs, right? So basically the basic API description and metadata for our OML services. So let's do that. So we go here to the version 2.1, okay? And then you can see that in the OML server here, right? Again, you only have now the database server, right? There's no information here. It doesn't know who you are. But remember that in the authorization tab, you're passing your token. So your token is telling the data center who you are, what's your tenancy, what's your username and password. So it's validating you through the token directly, okay? So I no longer need to pass any information in the body here, for example, right now, okay? Not on this API. So let's send that request. And then we can see that below, we see specifically what we receive, right? We get version, right? We get information about the OML models. I can see cognitive text. I can see models. I can see the health. I can see API, and I can see deployment, okay? These are just the APIs that we can access, right? The endpoints, the main endpoints for the service, okay? So, and then back here on the 2.2, we're gonna check the open API description. This is also known as the Swagger file. It contains the entire set of APIs information, right, that other services will need. So normally what happens is if there are other services, they can come to us and check the /API right under this entire URL. And then we're going to go here and go to our Open API specification. You can see that it's just exactly as the one before, but I added a /API here in front, right? Authorization is always the token, okay? There's no body, there's nothing here needed, and we're going to just send that. And now you're going to be able to see this. This is the entire name. This is a version of our Open API component, and there you get all the information, right? This is basically what we call the Swagger file. So you see all of that information, and then you have the servers and the tags and everything you're gonna get back, right? List of models, about requests, problems, you store a model, connected to repository. So all the error messages, everything that you should be able to do and not do, right, with this. And this, again, is very useful because all of the other services, when you're connecting to a REST API, you would want to get the API so that you can more easily work on this, right? Sentiment and semantic similarities and things like that, okay? So all of that is available here. Okay, but now for the fun part, right? So we don't have any models, right? So let's move on to lab number 3 then. Let's now do the first thing. We're going to register and score with an Oracle Machine Learning models, okay? So first things first, to do that, basically we're going to need a serialized Oracle Machine Learning model, right? That we need a file that we need to push to the OML Services model repository. So normally we have given back a few times to you guys in the Oracle Machine Learning for Python. We have done that in some of our weekly sessions. We have shown you the scripts for serializing Oracle Machine Learning models into these .mod objects. We're going to add that to the GitHub as well, so that it's easier for you guys to figure it out. I think it is actually already there, if I'm not mistaken. We have a script there where you can use to serialize any in-database OML model, including a database on premises, right? And database cloud service. So Exadata cloud service, any database, you can serialize an in-database model from there into this format. And with this format file, you can actually load it into OML services. So we're going to do that right now. Basically, the idea is this is basically what you need. You need your token, but then you got to give it a model name, model type, version, a shared model data, that specific file, and then a namespace, okay? So this is what we're going to do. Sherry is going to put on the chat this link, which actually has a zip file with a bunch of models, right? These are the models we're going to use throughout the session. This link then contains for you guys some of these OML services models. And what I want you guys to do is to download these files, open that, unzip the files, and then check your item 3.3, okay? So go to that link that Sherry put on chat, download that as a zip file, and then go to the item 3.3. You're going to see there's a bunch of things. You got to open that up in the body. So you go to the 3.3, you're going to go to the body section. We're going to look at the model data. I'm going to do that with you guys. So I'm going to go to Postman here. Okay, so we go to the section 3. We go down to 3.3. And then you can see that on the right, you have some more space to open up, right? All right, so we can expand this guy down here, and you can see that you have an OML model name that is already given just because we were making things easier for you. So we added that in the environment, right? But down here in the select files, we're going to click on select files, and then we're going to select that file 3.3, okay? Because we're on that section. And then we're going to open that up. Okay, so now you can see that that is what we have here, right? We have that 3.3 model, right? And then we can then use this now. This is our serialized file and serialized model, and we're going to store that file there. And before I store it, I can check the list all models, right? For example, if I come back to the list all models here, we can go back to 3.1, list all models, and then authorization, always the token there, right? And in list all models, if you try that right now, because we have not uploaded any models, we should get an empty answer, right? The items here is nothing, right? So now we're going to store our model, right? So the model that you clicked here and opened it, you click on send, and now you should receive this back. You get a model ID. This model ID is a unique identifier of your model, right? So you get that model ID, and now if you go back to list all models, and then you send that again, now you see our model down here, okay? You see the model ID, OML user, this is the link, right? It's a model that's shared, okay? Now, on all of these sections, starting right now, I wrote some things in the test. So if you click on test, you're gonna see a bunch of HTML code. So I did this bunch of things because down here, you can click on visualize. So this is much easier on the eyes, right? Compared to that, to the JSON file, okay? But that's all. So, all right, so now that we have stored it, right? Let us go back to the OML Services repository, right? So we store the model, and now we list the models, and this is what we just did, right? We went back to 3.1, list models, and now that we have a model, looking at the token, we just clicked on send, and we got back our model in a JSON format. And if you click on visualize, you're going to get all of the models and the details that are there, okay? Now, then we're going to go now to create the REST endpoint for that model, okay? What happens is we just stored the model so far. We have not created an endpoint for it to score. So right now that model is not alive. It's only stored, okay? So on 3.8, we're going to create a REST endpoint for that model. And to do that, we only really need a URI, right? A URI just like this one, where you want your model to be deployed to, and your model ID, right? So if you go back to Postman, then on the 3.8, right? And you get all the other, there are many other details you can get about models you guys can play with. You guys can go to get model details and things like that, where you get, you know, you're going to see all the things that the model needs and you know, more information about it, right? So what I want you to do is then go to 3.8, and again, authorization, we always have the token, right, from now on. But look at the body. In the body, all I'm doing is I am passing the model ID, which actually, if you look at your environment, was pre-populated, right? When we stored the model, we got back that model ID. So what we did is we just automatically stored that model ID for you, right here. And then we're passing the model URI, OML model URI, that's called affinity prediction, okay? And that's about it. So with these two little pieces of information, I can now register that model under deployment here, okay? So just send, and you get back this information, which now says this model is now registered and ready to predict. So now that I registered that model, we can go to 3.11 and check the list of scoring endpoints. This is different than the list of models, okay? Now I'm getting only a specific list of the scoring endpoints available to me. Okay, so if I go back to 3.11 right here, I can check there is you know, nothing specific here in the body needed. I'm just checking against deployments, and then it shows me this model here. And again, I can click on visualize to read it a little bit easier. So this time it tells me that this model is shared, and then it tells me the URI, and it tells me what the day this model was deployed to, right? And what's the reference for that model, right? Specifically, if I wanted to score against it. Okay, so now finally we're ready to score. Great. So now we go to 313, and we're going to score our first model here. Okay. So we're going to call the REST endpoint. We need to pass input records, right? So the records, or so what's the data we want, right, to be able to score. And then we're going to say topN details if you want to as an option. So basically, let's do that then. Let's just go there and score, right? So go with me to 313 and then click on the body, right? Again, the authorization is always there, but click on the body so you can see what we're sending or we're shipping to this model, okay? These are the variables, the input variables that we're sending to this model, right? And this is a model that predicts affinity card, right? So whether a customer would purchase that card or would accept that offer based on this input data. So right now, what we can do then is just click on the send, and then you're going to get your probabilities, okay? So down here, then if you scroll down, you can see these are the results. So a customer with these exact characteristics, right, and data would actually result in a classification of very unlikely to buy my product, right? Probability of 0.9 to not buy, and only probability of 0.07, right, or 7% of buying, right? Now, again, this is a point estimation and very fast, and that's the idea. So if you try it again and again, you're going to see that you're going to get, you know, the different timings, right, that you can see. So the timing it takes right now, for example, is 76 milliseconds to get the result, okay? So OML Services is serving you real-time scoring very fast on basically a single, in this case, a single score. But let's move on to the other ones. If you go to 3.14 and look at the body, I now have what we call a mini batch, right? We have two customers here. You see one with 41 years old, the other one is 39 years old. So one is never married, the other one is married, right? One is a female, the other one's is a male. So let's then run that scoring. So basically what you get is, in this case, in 64 milliseconds, I got actually the two probabilities back, right? So I got the two probabilities for customer number one and the two probabilities for customer number two. Again, as I mentioned before, in many of these cases, I created a visualization that helps. So you can click on visualize and you see the scoring results for customer 0, right? That's the first customer. And then customer number 1 had these other probabilities. So it's good because then the second customer is actually going to buy my product, right? 82% probability, right? Now, we have extended that. So if you go all the way to 3.17, we have extended that up to around 250 classifications. That's what we expect a mini batch is going to, do. We don't expect people to be running scoring in batches. We are going to add that to OML services. So we have a batch scoring component coming up, and we're working on it. But the current status for this one is real-time scoring of the mini batches. Okay, so that's basically what you're going to see here. So right now I have 250 customers here that I'm passing information, and then I click on send, and 500 milliseconds. It took a little more because now I got, if I click on visualize to make it better, I can see all of these, right? I can see I have all the way down to 250, right, different classifications. So because I started on customer 0, I got 251. So there's another trick up our sleeve, which is normally what people say, okay, Marcos, you get the probability, right, that the customer is going to buy, but that's not helping. I don't know why that customer was not going to buy. So we added the functionality that we have already for in-database models for what we call the prediction details. So in the body, instead of only sending you or sending the OML service the input records, if you add the topN details, okay, now you're going to see that you get back not only those probabilities, right, but you also get the details down here. And the details tell you what were the columns that were determined to be the most important for this specific customer to say that he did or did not have a probability to buy. Same thing again, you can click on visualize to help you with that. So we have the scoring results, and then we have the prediction details, right? So we can see that for this particular customer, years of residence was actually the most impactful thing for his not very little likelihood to buy, right? So his high likelihood to not buy any of my products here. And then I have a Y box games and marital status and home theater package, and then finally the age, which has the least impact on the top 5. Okay. One of the things that is very useful as well to know, if you don't already, is that the Oracle machine learning in database models are resilient to data failures. So for example, I can remove this attribute here on my list, and it's still going to work. Okay, you get back your probability. I can remove actually 3 attributes, and we're still going to score you, right? So the scoring keeps happening. What's happening is we are then ignoring the other attributes. We're actually taking them and assuming them as null. So we do a replacement, right? We have a replacement happening on the background so that we replace them with the average or something that is not going to affect the scoring, and then we score that record. Okay, so it is very resilient to data errors and attribute errors and any other things, and you can pass even other things, right? Like things that the model does not need, right? So something like that. Right, something like that, and it's still okay, right? We ignore that you're sending me data that I didn't ask for, that the model does not need, and I still score you. Okay, so that is very powerful and important for systems that cannot wait for having 1 or 2 mistakes on the data. Okay. All right. So then back to our slides, and we saw the scoring there. We saw our 314 to score mini batch records. We saw a mini batch of 2 records. We saw prediction details, right? So what's next? So there's a bonus round now that I would like to do. And we need to get to the Oracle Machine Learning AutoML UI and to show you guys how to register a model from there, okay? For that, we will need to go back to your My Reservations window. So if Sherry can share that link again for the My Reservations window, you guys probably have that window open, right? So this time, in that window that you guys have for your reservations, you click on Launch Workshop again. You probably have the workshop open. We want to copy the password. Click on the Copy Password for Initial Password. And click on the Launch Console. Okay. So what that's going to do is that's going to actually log us into Oracle Cloud. Okay. So click on the Launch Console, and then you're going to be shown this sign in. And this sign in or single sign on screen is going to show like that. It's going to have your own user already pre-populated, and you only need to paste that password you got. Okay. So again, back here in this screen, we have a copy password. And when you launch the console, you're going to need that password, and you're going to need to change it because that's the first time we're going in. Okay. So I'm going to go with you guys there. So we're going to go here. We're going to copy this password. Just click that button here. And then I'm going to launch the console. It's going to ask you for the password here, right? But then when you click sign in, it's going to tell you, oh, you need to change it. So I'm lazy, so I'm just going to paste the same password again and again and again. Okay. You can do whatever you feel like, but I think this is just easier so that I don't have to remember another password. So now we're going to be shown to this screen. This is the Oracle cloud interfaces, right? So in here, we want to click on hamburger menu and autonomous database. Okay. Now, there in here, what you want to do is you want to click on this compartment, right? Because you notice there's no autonomous database for you in this compartment. Yeah, because you got to find your compartment. So you're going to look for your compartment, and your compartment, and all of our colleagues here running right now, you're going to have to check the specific compartment that you're in, right? So the compartment that you're in, you go back here, and you're going to find your username, right? LL5495. So we're going to go back here and find the 5495 in my case. And now it refreshes and I can come into my autonomous database. Okay. Again, find your compartment under Live Labs. It's got to have your name, your username in front. When you click on it, you're going to see your autonomous database here. We're going to click on that autonomous database. And we come to the main page here. Okay. So again, clicking on autonomous database there, we're going to go find our own compartment until it shows our autonomous database there. And then you click on that autonomous database link. Okay. So you're going to be able to come to this screen, the main screen. We want to do is click on the Service Console button on the top. And then when it opens up, the Service Console looks like this. We want to click on Development here on the left-hand side. And then click on OML Notebooks. Okay. So clicking on Service Console, I go to Development and then Oracle Machine Learning Notebooks. Okay. Now you see here, I'm logging into Oracle Machine Learning Database user credentials, right? So for this guy, so everyone is going to be OML user, okay? And then everyone is going to be with the AA. Let me go back to the slide so I can show you. And Sherry, if you can share that with the folks as well. So you're going to sign in with that user, OML user, and the password is going to be the same for all of us. AA, and then with capital A, and then BBCC123456. With that, you're going to be logging into Oracle Machine Learning Notebooks. Okay. So, all right. So from here, from this screen, then basically what we're going to do is we're going to click on our AutoML. Okay. So that's a button that we have over here. And then from AutoML, experiments window, right? It's going to show up as empty because we haven't done any experiment. So we're going to click on create. And then we're going to give it a name, call it affinity card prediction, whatever you guys want. And then you're going to click on the loop to search for a data source. Okay. So, so let's do that. So we're going to click on AutoML, and I can come from here or from here as well, right? It's the same thing, AutoML or AutoML. Okay. I'm going to create an experiment. I have nothing there. I'm going to type affinity card, and then we're going to go and click on the data source to find our data source. Okay. And this is a data source I want you guys to find. It's called in the SH schema, it's called supplementary demographics. Okay. And then you click on the OK button. So if I go to my data source here, then I can do my affinity card, and I can come here and click on data source. I'll look for SH schema on the left, and then I'll scroll down and click on supplementary demographics here, right? And click OK. Okay. So all I want you guys to do is now select the prediction target as affinity card. Okay, that's our prediction target. And the case ID is our customer ID. Okay. Usually that would have been enough, but what we want to do is we want to expand on the left-hand side the additional settings and reduce the maximum top models here to 2. Okay, and we want to do that because of the time we have available right now. So we want it to be very quick. And then as a database service level, let's switch it to high or medium. Is the same thing here for us in our particular components here. So now that I did that, right, I got affinity card, customer ID, 2 models, and high level. I can click on start, and then I'll do a faster results. Okay, so that way I start my experiments. So if you look at what I'm doing here, that's exactly what I'm doing, right? So you get in the create experiment, affinity card, customer ID, select in additional settings, you click on expand that, select 2 models, and select a higher database level, right? You can put medium or high, either one is going to give you parallelism. Okay. So once we click on start and click and select faster results, then this is going to start running. Okay. And then on the 3 dots, we're going to click on the 3 dots to see the progress report. Okay. So if I come here and I click on my 3 dots, I can see this little progress report here. It's showing me that it already selected the top 2 models, right? Naive Bayes and GLM. And then it's running. And it's now in the model tuning phase. It already did adaptive sampling and feature selection. So it's a model tuning phase for Naive Bayes. And it should be, again, reasonably quick to do this. So we're going to wait until it finishes up to run this process. And when it does, the idea is then we're going to switch from that to the deployment. Okay. Again, we're not going to investigate details about the models right now. We're just interested in showing you guys how they are deployed. Okay. Next week, we're going to dive deeper into AutoML UI. So click anywhere in the area around the model to highlight, right, the model. So the whole row will become like a shade of blue, and then you're going to be able to click on the deploy button. And then we're going to be shown the menu where we can fill in this information, and then we can click OK to deploy the model. Okay. So right now here, I'm back to the system. It finished. So I'm going to click on the Naive Bayes model and I'm going to click on deploy. Okay. So you can give it any name. I'm giving you the AutoML just to, affinity card here, just so that I recognize where it's coming from. And then the same URI I'm going to use, okay, for that. So you can do anything here. I'm going to call it version 1.0. And the namespace OML models. I mean, you can use all the namespaces if you would like. And I'll say, yeah, that's shared, but I don't need that. Yeah, I can, I don't need that because I'm the only one in this database, so it's fine. I can just share it as well. So let's deploy the model. Let's click OK. So I get the message that selected model has been deployed successfully. So how do I look at that from here? From this interface, you can actually have there's a new models interface here. So in the OML notebooks here, UI, we actually have a models interface. When you click on it, you can see I have the models that I built just now using Naive Bayes and GLM. These were the models that were built and are ready to be used for SQL scoring, for example, right? But then I click on deployments, and now I see I have my affinity card prediction, which is the one that we created. And then I have the AutoML affinity card that I just deployed right now from this interface, right? So I did not need to write curl or Postman or do anything. I just clicked the button, put the name, and then the AutoML model was deployed, okay? From this interface, if you click on the model name, you can also see the information about the model. So you get the metadata of the model. You see the mining function, right? Classification is a Naive Bayes, and these are the inputs that it takes, right? And then you can click on the URI as well to see the open API for that model in particular. Okay, so you have all that information about the model and details and things like that. Okay, so we deployed our model. So let's go back to Postman. And now list all models. If you click on list all models, back to 3.1, you can click on list all models, and you're going to see that now basically the two models here showed up, right? And for bonus points, for you know, if you want to copy the model URI, right, 3.11, list all model deployments, you're going to see the URI here, right? So we want to make sure you copy this URI, because I can show you how to score that model now. So if you click on 3.13, and again, this is a bonus round here, but I'm going to delete the previous URI I had there, and I'm going to paste the new URI. This is the one that I just created with AutoML. And I just want to show you guys that it's ready to roll. So I click on send, and I'm right now scoring, you know, immediately, right, with the new model that I just deployed from AutoML UI. Okay, so this way, all the applications that are speaking to this environment are going to be able to score from AutoML UI. All right, so we're running short in time, so I just want to go make sure that we keep going, moving along. So we're going to do the same thing now for Lab 4 for scoring with OML machine learning models in ONNX format. Okay, so the ONNX format, again, the same store. So we're going to need the same things: a model name, a version, a type, and the file. The file this time is going to be a zip file that is going to contain that ONNX data or ONNX model created from a third-party tool. So there's many tools that create ONNX formats, Python, ONNX libraries that you can use to create and convert your models into ONNX format. Okay, so let's take a look how we do that. We're going to go now to section 4, the 4.3, and we're going to now again select the file in the body of that 4.3 and go and select the 4.3 ONNX machine learning pipeline.zip file. Okay, so going back to my Postman, I'm going to then minimize these guys. I'm going to expand ONNX classical machine learning models 4.3. I see that there is a select file here, right, in the bottom. And I click on the select file. I'm going to select my 4.3 ONNX machine learning pipeline.zip. Okay. And now we're going to register that model. So we send, and we should get back this information. We got a model ID back. Again, remember that's the same process, right? So if you list all models now, and you click send in 4.1 and visualize it, you're going to see that we have two OML models, right? One with AutoML, the other one with that we registered by hand, and then the new Scikit-learn Titanic pipeline ONNX model, right? That's the zip file we just registered. Okay, so remember, we need to create an endpoint for that ONNX. So we need to go to 4.8 and click send. So now you get that model back, right? You can see that model ID was registered, and this is the URI, Scikit-learn Titanic pipeline prediction. Okay, so now we're ready to predict. So if we go to 4.13, now in the body, you see there's just a little bit different way of sending data that we were sending before to the OML models. For ONNX models, we need to send it like this, right? Which is emulating more of the Python style, right? But it's like passenger class, sex, age, fare, and embarked. And then we're gonna just click send. Okay, now we get back the probability that this passenger would have survived the Titanic, right? This was computed by the model that is hosted in OML Services as an ONNX machine learning pipeline model that was built using Scikit-learn, and we can see that probability is coming back here. Okay, again, same thing. If you click on visualize, you're going to see it a little better. Okay, now if you click on 4.14, we got 2. If you look at the body, this is a way to send 2 records to that in batch, right? So we got these two records there. You just send, we're going to get back the two customers, right? So the two different classifications, again, if you visualize it, you're going to get the first customer and then the second customer. Okay. So that is for the ONNX machine learning models. So again, if you want to list all model deployments here in 4.11, we're going to see the different models that are right now able to score, right? These are the models able to score. And these are all the URIs that you can use to score your models right now. Okay. So that was for our section 4. So the ONNX format models. And then, so we stored the models and we checked the repositories and we listed the scoring endpoints. So now we're going to go to Lab 5. Lab 5, basically we're going to register and score on a model with an image classification model, okay? So for that, back in Postman then, we're going to do, again, the same process. You guys already know the drill here now, right? So 5.3, we're going to, again, check for that select file here for the model data. We're going to click on there, and then we're going to select the 5.3 ONNX Image class.zip. Okay? So we're going to open that file. That file is a little bigger, so it's going to take some more time to upload. But that file then is going to be an ONNX image model, and the name is going to be preloaded with the name we gave it. And then we just hit send, okay? Okay, so that guy took 6 seconds to upload on my machine to my data center, right? This is going to vary wherever in the world you guys are, and the distance to that data center and all of those things, right? Your service provider, right? But here you go, I got my model ID, right? So same thing again, I'm going to create an image endpoint, right? ONNX image endpoint, and the body, all I have is I'm coming in with the model ID and I'm giving it a URI. So I click on send, that should be fast. So now I get my URI back, ONNX image class, so I can now score with that, right? And again, if I go to 5.11 and I list the scoring endpoints, right, in 5.11, and I visualize it, now I should have that new ONNX image classification model right here as part of the other models I already have. So let's score an image then, right? So the first one is 5.13. You'll notice that the body is where you need to pass the image. There's an image data. So you guys are going to do a click on select files. And then you're going to open up one of the test images that I shipped in that zip file, which is the tiger shark. It's called 5.13 tiger shark, right? So if you open that up, and then let me show you that that file to make sure that we see that this is so that's the image we expect, right? So we're sending this image for the environment to test, right? So when we click on send, then if I don't specify the topN, I'm gonna get back the entire laundry list of labels that the model allows, and the model allows, I think, 1,000 different labels. So I get probabilities of that being any of these things, right? So I got 4,000 lines of information back, and you can click on visualize. That's going to help you a lot. And then you can see a tiger shark here has a very, very high probability, right? 0.98. But we can do better, right? So if you go to 5.14. This is a very recently introduced feature. We introduced this a few weeks back. So we're going to select the same image, but this time we're going to say topN, right? So we're going to say, okay, select the same tiger shark for the 514. That's the same image. But now I'm going to do a top 3, and I click send. So now I only get back the top 3 probabilities in order from that result, Okay, so this is much better. So now I can isolate, and if I visualize it, I can see the top probabilities of tiger shark, and then I have, a tiny probability of being a great white, and then a very, very 0.2% probability of being a sturgeon, right? That's the idea for the image part of the labs. Okay. Now, another comment is, if you guys want to keep using this, right, for the future, you can always save. If you click on save here on top, for every change you do, because all the little Postman here are going to indicate to you with a little red dot where you have unsaved changes, right? So it might be useful for you to save it so that the tiger shark image always shows up here when you click on that link on the left. Okay. So we saw our image classification, and again, this is show. I have all the details here on the PDF that we distributed, so you can see all the details there, right? So I'm gonna just skip these different components that we did, and we're gonna go to lab 6, which is the final lab, which actually talks about the cognitive text REST APIs. This does not require you to enter a model. We can actually build a model for you on English, Spanish, and French. We used Wikipedia, and then we did a long work on around. We end up with, after all the cleanups and work on it, we end up with around 25 million documents, and then all of the different subjects, and we do that for you so that you don't have to. And then you can use the service directly. So, for example, you can call directly a service just like this, right? You can enter a phrase and then say, give me the top 5, in this case, keywords, and this is what you get back. Okay, so let's take a look at that directly ourselves in the demo. So back to Postman, then we're gonna expand the item number 6. So now this is the list of the cognitive text endpoints. And if you do 6.1, you get a lot of the information, basic information, right? You can scroll down to see what each of these things do, right? You get topics, and then you get keywords and summary, similarity, and sentiment, right? But let's go and take a look at real quick at 6.2. So text keywords, again, going to our body here, right? I'm going to ask, give me the top 5 keywords for the following text. This can be a document. This can be a very long set of documents, and then we're evaluating, right? So you can send one by one here. When you do that, you get back your keywords. So you can see, basically, these are the keywords in that text, right? Algorithms, Oracle, machine, database, scalability. Again, I created a visualization here that helps to see that a little easier, right? So you see the weights and the keywords there. Same thing with summary. So for a summary, is the same text. I'm looking for phrases, right? Sentences that would be a good summary for that. So if you go back to visualization, you see the summary sentences and the weights, right? Text sentiment analysis. So you're basically sending that to the sentiment analysis, and then you're going to get back the sentiment itself, right? Neutral, negative, and positive. So you get back scores for the sentiment on that text specifically, right? So it's pretty neutral, right? This is pretty neutral and generic. The topics, same thing. Top 5 topics. I can ship that and get the topics, right? Results. So I get the topic and the weights, right, of those topics. And then the similarity. So for similarity, for example, here in the body, I can check the probe. So I can have an entire another phrase or long phrase or document here, and a text list that I'm comparing to. So I'm comparing the above text with the below description, and I get that similarity right there, right? So 66%. So it's pretty reasonable. So I guess we are talking about in-database machine learning algorithms in here, right? And finally, the text features, which is actually a feature vector of 1,000 features that we use our own in-database model that we built with the Wikipedia embeddings. So all of these weights, we're going to get, we used to get around 2,000, but we identified that with 1,000 weights, we actually can map very well up to those 25 million different components that we have. And then, I click the visualization, but the visualization doesn't give you a lot in the weights because that's just a long list, right? But this helps you then so if you want to send and compare documents one to each other, you can get their feature vector, right, from here directly. And for every text, you get the feature vector, and then you can compare those from there. Okay. Again, this is also available in Spanish. So we're running. We're getting to the end of our time. So I'm going to just show you real quick. You can get that with Spanish. It's going to understand Spanish. You're going to do same thing in topics in French. So if you enter a French phrase, you're going to do the same thing. So you just send and you get that. And you see there's nothing for you to additionally to you do other than look at the authorization. You always have a token there, right? For if things along those lines. So right now we don't have sentiment in Spanish nor sentiment in French. We are working on Italian as well. We have received requests for Japanese. So we're working on those. But if you guys need or want more specific features, you can always ask, right? We are basically taking feedback from you guys and then putting that into our orders of prioritizations. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to talk to you about today. I hope it was useful. I hope you guys were able to experiment with Oracle Machine Learning Services. The places I would recommend you guys to go. We have the full information about the REST API. So we have the current documentation available. So if you go to this link, that is on the PDF also that Sherry originally shared. I'm going to ask her to share again the link to the PDF with all these documents in the chat, so that you guys can make sure to download and keep it with you. But this is there. We got plenty of other links if you're interested on the other things that we do and components. And then Ask Tom office hour sessions again every Tuesday. So we're doing next week AutoML UI hands-on, and then the week after we're going to do an OML for Pi hands-on lab as well. And then we got a lot of good things coming in June as well. So and that was it. In our GitHub, you're going to find all of these examples. I'm going to put these PDF as well there to see if we can add that into our OML Services folder. And that's that. So with that, I would like to open up for questions. And I thank you very much again for joining. And hopefully that was useful. So Mark and Sherry, how are the questions coming?
I think we're doing well. We've kept up with the majority of them. I think one of the questions that we had involved, how do I create a .mod file? So if I'm exporting an in-database model, any advice for that, Marcus?
All right. Yes, we do have that actually in our GitHub. So if you look at our Oracle Machine Learning examples in GitHub, if you go here to machine learning, I think Sherry probably posted that in the chat. If you go to OML Services here, you have that exact notebook right here. So SQL notebook exporting serialized models.json. Okay. So if you guys download this file, you can open it up on a notebook, and then we explain everything step by step on how to create a .mod file, even from within Autonomous Database, right? Which actually involves DBMS Cloud and sending the serialized model to an OCI objects storage. Okay.
Okay. And another question is the Python code available for the building of the ONNX image model? interested in seeing how the image processing is being handled before being fed into the model for predictions.
Okay, that's a great question. So we don't have it handy, but I am going to make sure that we get an example to GitHub as well. So normally what you would find is with the regular Scikit-learn or even a TensorFlow, they do export models in ONNX format. We have the specific releases we support in our REST API. So there's like 1.4 or 1.3 release of ONNX. So the models have to conform to that. And in the zip file, if you open that zip file with the model, you can see a metadata labels. So we have a metadata file and a labels file together with that zip file. Those are the files we need to be able to recognize your outputs from your own ONNX format model, right? But we'll be happy to help you with that as well.
And that seems to be the end of our questions. So thanks for a great session, Marcos.
Okay, excellent. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I'll see you guys next week.